Welcome to Locked On Golden Knights. Today, Chris Gawlik defends Kelly McCrimmon.
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Tony Cordasco, along with Chris Gawlik. You could find us on Twitter at Tony Dasco, at TD Chris G, and of course at Locked On VGK on Twitter and now on YouTube. And Chris, you stopped short yesterday of calling Kelly McCrimmon the general manager of the year on Twitter. I don't know what was going on there, but it was, I think you were in it for the cloud a little bit. It's okay. It's okay once in a while. So on the feed yesterday, you said that Kelly McCrimmon's track record of poor salary dumps, etc., isn't enough to put him on proverbial thin ice. You went so far as to say he's doing a decent job. The fans responded yesterday. And what prompted such an outburst for you?
So first of all, folks, I do appreciate all the interactions we had on Twitter yesterday, good, bad, or otherwise, whether you agree or not, but I'll make my argument simple. My quotes in the tweet was measurables to support him not doing a decent job. Now, folks, I get everything. Like, I totally get the concerns about the future. I get concerns about the salary dumps. I get all that. And I'm not going to argue that those are good things. But let's talk about, tell me if this is a good or bad general manager. You architect the best expansion team in the history of modern day sports. Okay. McCrimmon got all the credit from McPhee and everybody for that. That's a good start. Let's go to season number 2 quickly here. Season 2, arguably a better roster than season 1. I get the unsustainability comments and the concerns there, but let's just look at the results. We're up 3-1 against San Jose, right? We're up 3-1 against San Jose. We can't win 3 closeout games. We can't bounce back from that not a major nonsense. Gallant cannot plug the flooding, or last night, the flooding we had around town. What a show that was anyway. But Gallant could not stop the flooding. Was season 2 on Gallant or Kelly McCrimmon? Let's move forward now. Seasons 3 and 4, I'm going to lump together, folks. I'm going to lump them together. Both of them get within 3 wins of making the Stanley Cup final for the third and fourth year, respectively, in our franchise history. Against Dallas, I think we were a slight favorite, maybe a 10-cent favorite. But against Montreal in season 4, folks, we were minus 250 to advance to the Stanley Cup final. Against Dallas, if you want to say Dallas was the better team that series, fine. We're not going to argue that. We're not going to put that on McCrimmon necessarily, but whatever. But season 4, folks, Pete DeBoer could not lead the Vegas Golden Knights past the Cinderella story, if you will, of the Montreal Canadiens. Is that on McCrimmon? I don't think anyone's putting that series on McCrimmon, folks. That was on DeBoer. Now, season 5, folks, this is where we can go start looking at different measurables. Season 5 is, I think, at the start of the season, the best VGK roster we had as far as a paper roster. And then Eichel comes into the mix. There is possibly a path to make the playoffs and have a salary, or have a salary that's going to exceed the overall salary cap. That's what I was looking for, by $7-9 million. So 500 plus man games lost. Is that an excuse? Fine. Is it a fact? Absolutely. Is that on McCrimmon? Yes, we can certainly make an argument that the season 5 injuries can be partially on Kelly McCrimmon. It's a veteran roster. It's an aging roster. The more mileage these players get, the more susceptible they are to injuries. That happens. But we were also on the wrong side of variance when it comes to all these injuries. I used to run poker rooms. If you take away my right-hand man, my left-hand man, shout out to Condos and Mitch Dietz. If you take away my right-hand man, my left-hand man, my second best supervisor, and my 4 best poker dealers, my summer poker series is going to struggle mightily and probably fail. That's what happened with the Vegas Golden Knights in season 5, folks. So can you put part of that on Kelly McCrimmon? All day you can put part of season 5 on McCrimmon. But talking about measurables, season 1 Stanley Cup, season 2 Gallant, in my opinion, chokes that one away. Seasons 3 and 4, I think coaching is why we don't advance to at least one of those Stanley Cup finals. Why is everyone so mad about McCrimmon if you simply just look at the results of the first 5 seasons is the substance of my argument here.
Okay, and I'm going to go a step further here because you're looking back. I'm looking ahead. And currently, this team, to me, does not have a Stanley Cup roster. And what about all the communication issues? Again, the firing of Gerard Gallant, I thought it was where a lot of things started to go sideways and where I started to not trust this franchise because of the way that they handled a lot of these things. Yes, you do fire people. Yes, you do make trades. The Marc-Andre Fleury deal, that was awful. And the way that that was handled, whether it was on the VGK or on Alan Walsh or on whomever, Pete DeBoer, again, the lack of communication. I think with the Robin Leonard situation, maybe Pete DeBoer wasn't in the mix as much as a lot of us might think. And I think, communication skills are just absolutely lacking and horrible here. And then we've got to get into the salary cap issues, for crying out loud. I mean, last season, we're playing with 11 forwards. You have guys double shifting late in the season. The LTIR, I think, is an absolute joke. And again, I think that they just clouded everything because I thought a lot of those players might have been able to come back. And they just, because of the salary cap issues, they kept them on the LTR. Come on, Chris, wake up.
It's all fair, Tony. And again, yes, looking at the future, I have the same concerns. I definitely have the same concerns. But can McCrimmon still find a way to put a roster together to support all of these big salary signings that we have? Can that happen? Well, Christopher's coming to jump in the fray now. Can McCrimmon put something like that together to complement, our $30 million just committed to 4 or 5 players? And that's to be determined. That is to be determined. We are going to find out in season 6 how that plays out. I'm simply looking at the track record. I'm looking at seasons 1 through 4 and saying, folks, why are we so mad right now? Season 5, yes, I am in the cloud, if you will, using your terminology, that things could be going down a strange path. I am certainly with you. I am with the fans. I get all of that. But as of now, that's not measurable, folks. As of right now, we have to play season 6 and see what happens. Season 1, we made the Stanley Cup, folks. We made the Stanley Cup with a roster that is not nearly what the season 6 roster is. Things can certainly happen. This is where I'm going to take the glass being a little more than half full and hope that someone like William Karlsson just could not succeed under Pete DeBoer's system. He did well with Gallant, even the second year. He did okay.
And I think he was the reason DeBoer got, that was the final nail in the coffin, was when the golden child there, William Karlsson, who can't hit, the broadside of he can't hit an open net for nothing. Okay. And then he's the one saying there's a lack of creativity. We're afraid to make mistakes and all this. Oh yeah. Okay. That reflected absolutely directly on Peter DeBoer. And then just Kelly McCrimmon and just the mindset, and talked about a spoiled franchise. Yes, they're spoiled. But now, if that's the expectation, you have to get there for this fan base, number one. What were some, and then I also wanted to jump in there. I did see someone at Kelly McCrimmon, like one of the posts there on the feed, but what were some of the comments on Twitter yesterday by this VGK fan base? And I'm one of those folks that felt that back in 2019, when McCrimmon was named as a finalist for the Edmonton GM position, they should have just let him go. They should have let him go.
I get that, and I get the anger. And McCrimmon, a lot of this is brought on himself. He doesn't, like McPhee, you don't see him doing a lot of one-on-one interviews or local podcasts. I think he hasn't opened our email yet to come join us. I mean, he might actually want to come join us if he watches this one, right? Or at least he might want to come talk with me. Tony, I might have to sit you out on that one, but we'll see. So a lot of the comments, first of all, do talk about the future. A lot of the comments talk about the future and the concern. There was also mentions significantly about the lack of communication, letting Fleury just walk. I mean, Fleury, that was a rough one. The roughest thing about Fleury, I get the communication and all that, but watching Chicago turn around and flip him for a third at the deadline, that's the part that really got me. This one got me, like someone talking about a business standpoint, the fan base being upset and, they're having to give tickets away now. Like, folks, we're 103% occupancy, never have not sold out a game. So we're just going to move on from that one there.
Are there tickets available though? Because last year
there's always tickets available. There's tickets available every single year. There's tickets available every single year.
And remember, on that secondary market, you could get tickets for cheap there later on in the season. This
Absolutely.
past year. Yeah.
Folks, ever since season 1, and this is a tip that 95% of you already know. If you want to go to game 12 of the regular season, don't buy your tickets now. Don't buy your tickets tomorrow. Don't buy your tickets October 1st. Wait until the day of game 12 of the regular season. Get yourself a beverage. I guess we're supposed to be a little more PC now. So get yourself a beverage. Go enjoy the area in front of T-Mobile. Make sure you have the Access app open or other secondary ones, but Access obviously is the official resale for VGK. Wait till 15, 18, 17, 12 minutes before puck drop, and you can get in for face value or even less than face value at times. And that hasn't changed in season 1, Tony. I'll tell you right now, folks, I'm a season ticket holder. My tickets are super inexpensive. What I would do season 1, a lot of times I'd get there late with my father. I would sell my season tickets for more than face value officially on the app, the way I'm supposed to. And then I'd have a beverage, a tall beverage that, out of a can. And then I would enjoy that. And then I would see, oh, look, I can take improve my seats from section 217 row Q and buy these seats in section 18 row P for the same price I just sold mine for, because they dropped. So, that hasn't changed in season 1, but it's magnified now because of what's happened. I'm looking for specific comments right now as I scroll through this here. The Dadonov deal came up.
You see at Kelly McCrimmon in there though?
I've seen a few of those in there. I've seen a few of those in there.
No. There's a like in there. Yeah, you liked a lot of what you were saying. I'm thinking that you have a new fan. And then,
I'll take it.
So new coach, new system. The chances that this team gets off to a slow start, I think are, it's something
reasonable.
That could happen.
It's reasonable.
Very reasonable.
Uh-huh.
And I know, like they've kept in contact with Barry Trotz, I'm sure, next GM for the VGK, shiny new old toy, give him free beer for life, and he's in.
Yeah, no doubt, folks. And again, I'm looking at the past and saying things have been just fine. Things have been just fine. Benefit of the doubt, I honestly think has been earned, at least for season 6, for fans, just to sit back and relax and see what happens. I get the comments. I get your comment that McCrimmon is on watch and the fact that he might not make it through the season. It's fair, Tony. It is completely fair if this team is slow out of the gate, because now you got 3 strikes, right? You got Marc-Andre Fleury, you got the Dadonov situation, which Ottawa plays a part in that. But at the end of the day, when you own the rights to a player, you need to know every in and out of their contract. And is that McCrimmon's job to know that? No, that's not McCrimmon, but McCrimmon needs to have someone on his team that does this. And it's probably a lower level hourly type employee that scours through all this stuff, but someone on the VGK side needs to be in the know there. So yes, that's on us. Even though Ottawa was the one who was supposed to submit whatever to us and we didn't get it, still, that's on us. That's on VGK. You own the rights to the player. You need to get in there and figure that out. But yeah, definitely a lot of concerns about the long term here. I'm just kind of trying to find a good one here.
In the interim, we do have to point to a lot of these trades where VGK got nothing in return. And I think they might be the 3rd player in that Brittany Griner deal, and send the future considerations and Shipachyov and other KHL players back to Russia too.
Oh, Tony, that you build a competitive team with a balance of contracts, young, controllable talent, role-playing vets, stars, upper-tier players. McCrimmon has no idea how to keep and develop young talents. This is a jock envy coming in there without a photo on their profile. That's fair. That's a fair statement. Like, there's a lot of fair statements concerning the future here, folks. And I do have the same concern. The premise of my argument is things have gone well for 4 years. We had more than our fair share of poor luck and variance in season number 5. That's why I'm not throwing season 5 out by any means. You got to find ways to win these games down the stretch, whether that's coaching, whether that's the GM not doing whatever motivational tactics that need to happen at the end of the season. Like all that, all that is put into the blender when you are going to evaluate, was it a good season, a bad season, or an otherwise season? And then where do you point? In season 5, we're going to point at Pete DeBoer, and he's obviously the one that had to fall on the sword here. No pun intended, Alan Walsh, but Foley made that choice. I'm sure that was a Foley choice right there. I'm sure Foley had the whiteboard in front of him. 1, 2, 3, McPhee, DeBoer, McCrimmon. Where did we go wrong? I still think Foley is sold on McCrimmon's plan. And I am offering, at least for season 6, the benefit of the doubt that things have gone well for 4 seasons. We had bad luck in season 5. Just sit back and see what happens. Folks, in 2017, this team didn't have a name. In 2016, T-Mobile was still, the 100, the teens level around what was just starting to be built. In 2014, we didn't have a franchise awarded to us. So I get that the passion is there. And Tony, you make an excellent point that the bar has been raised. We now expect a competitive team. And all of a sudden, if we do falter, like at least last season, we were in it until game number, mathematically, I think till game 80 or even 81. And if there was some crazy thing that happened, if we falter out of the gate and all of a sudden December, we're a bottom feeder, can we do like what the Blues did in, I think, 18-19, where they were in last place in the division and miraculously sneak into the playoffs and win the Stanley Cup? I think we're stretching a little bit there, but if that's the spot that we're in, we are a bottom feeder or, 6th in the division, looking up at the Seattle Kraken. I mean, God, what a kick in the butt that would be if the Kraken had a better season than us, which could happen with their roster, then yes, we're going to point to this podcast on July 29th and say, Gawlik, what the heck were you thinking? We can't swear anymore. Gawlik, what the heck were you thinking? This was a terrible podcast. We'll do a flashback episode and I'll say, yep, I was wrong. But for now, I defend that the first 4 seasons were fine. Season 5, mostly bad luck, but the eyes are open on McCrimmon. I am comfortable saying season 6, I think, is going to be just fine. I am going to trust the process for another few months and feel good about it. That's my argument.
I do not trust this so-called process of Kelly McCrimmon's, because when pushes come to shove in very crucial games, they're shorthanded. You could just go back to, he would have been fired if I were Bill Foley after that Colorado game a couple of seasons ago.
That hurts, Tony.
Where
that hurts.
You have 15 players suited up. That's just ridiculous, and that's stupidity, and that's a lack of knowledge about the salary cap. And again, it does reflect on the front office. And I never really, and the thing too that just annoys me, a lack of accountability. It's always someone else's fault. It was Gallant's fault. And now it's Pete DeBoer's fault. And it's everyone else's fault. But sooner or later, that spotlight, that light from the Luxor Hotel, that beam is going to shine on the forehead and the eyebrows of Kelly McCrimmon.
Okay, that Colorado game, it was terrible. What is the measurable outcome of that season? The Montreal Canadiens beat us and carry the Campbell Bowl off the Bell Center ice. That's the end. The end result there, though, in my opinion, of that season is on DeBoer not being able to find a way to beat the Montreal Canadiens, who we should have beat 4-1. Yes, that game was terrible. 15 forwards I was at that game. And you just saw it happening. Riley Smith nets an early goal that game, from what I recall. Gets an early goal, and he, you just see VGK getting tired. It was still 1-0 to start the third, but VGK got tired. And, the 15 skaters that played that game were magnificent. They were magnificent, but you cannot spot the Colorado. You can't spot the Arizona Coyotes 3 roster spots, let alone the Colorado. I say the Rockies earlier, let alone the Colorado Avalanche. It's coffee. I promise, folks. It's coffee.
Okay, coming up next, we're going to have some more lively debates about McCrimmon, and you can't play shorthanded, and you can't play, with a lack of three players on a fourth line and guys double shifting and all that stuff.
Agreed.
Direct reflection. And I had to get in eyebrows at some juncture.
I'm surprised it took until the 18-minute marker.
The VGK Power Play, will it really be improved under Bruce Cassidy? And we'll have an argument after this. You are listening and watching Locked On Golden Knights. Hey, fans, if you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There is a new flavor. Are you ready? It's delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. And I received my box of goodies this past week.
Mine's gone.
Yeah, mine
consumed.
too. They were devoured in a couple of days here. So again, we introduce you to this new flavor, cookie dough chunk puffs, a light chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks. And of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of actually making it. As a bachelor, I can dig that. And cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories. They have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to Built.com, snag yourself a box for you, for your family. It will be the perfect treat, or you can find a really good hiding place for them to hoard for yourself. What's great is that Built has all of their bars made with collagen protein, which is really good for yourself. Your body absorbs more efficiently, provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Go to Built.com and you could use the promo code LOCK15. Get 15% off at use the promo code LOCK15. Go to Built.com. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cordasco and Chris Gawlik. Got a little bit too excited there at the end of my Built.com read.
That's okay.
Chris and I are here now just 3 times a week for the next few weeks, as everything's supposed to get a little quieter around here in the NHL and in VGK land. And I'll tell you, like we have said before, and we watch podcasts and we listen and read stuff, some people are making some gigantic reaches. We have content every day because this thing is just rolling right now.
We could go 5 days a week if we needed to right now.
We could go 6-7 days a week.
Yeah.
Okay. So I started to dig in because I just remembered, Chris, when Bruce Cassidy was hired, everyone sort of assumed that the VGK Power Play would take a step forward, would take an immediate step forward. I don't believe that that will be the case, however. When I went back and started doing comparables, you like that word, measurables. And some of the measurables, again, for VGK, we know that they stunk on the power play this season. And so we compared Boston's power unit to the VGK. And this was, I think, the worst season under Bruce Cassidy in his 6 years there in Boston for the power play unit. And they struggled mightily also in the playoffs. Boston was at 21.2% on the power play. They were 15th in the league, and they struggled in the playoffs. They had 6 power play goals, and again, their power play unit in the playoffs just at 20.7%. And VGK, not in the playoffs, VGK 18.4% power play percentage for 25th. And, you know, we thought that we had some droughts here, rain notwithstanding, here in Las Vegas. We thought that we had some droughts here with the VGK, where they went, I think, 0 for 19, 0 for 21.
Oh, this is gonna hurt.
Boston at one juncture this past season, 0 for 40. 0 for 40, I think, in the month of April on the power play unit. And so are things going to be automatically fixed? They kind of glossed over it. We heard Kelly McCrimmon talking about special teams and their importance. And I think that they just assume that Cassidy's going to come in and things will be much better. Okay, that would be a quantum leap, though, if the VGK goes from 25th to 15th, because that would win more games here, right? But I still don't know. I've got huge question marks about the upcoming season and the VGK power play.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, if we're going to try for a glass half full approach, in the last 5 seasons, VGK, their highest power play percentage or highest power play ranking as a team in the regular season was 10. Boston last season, in the same 5-year period, their worst ranking overall in this past season, where they had the 0 for 40 droughts, This past season was 15th. So the worst the Bruins have ever been under Cassidy in the last 5 years, 15. The best VGK's ever been under the Gallant/DeBoer time was 10th. And oddly enough, the season where Gallant and DeBoer split was the best power play that they've had. Boston, though, from 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, in those 3 seasons, folks, their power play was ranked 4, 3, and 2 in that order. The season before the last, they were ranked 10th and then 15th most recently. So they trended the wrong direction, first and foremost, which can be a concern. If we go from 25 to 15, yeah, that's a quantum leap. And I dug up a statistic because maybe 45 days ago, and just to see what the difference was from having the 25th ranked unit to get us to a top 10. And it was like 8 or 9 goals. Like it was such a small margin. Then we talked about the injuries. Would the power play have been better? But that's a separate argument, obviously. Although last year with a lot less injuries, we were still the 23rd ranked power play unit. And all that talk about DeBoer making the power play a priority, we dropped 2 more notches, which how's that even possible? You hope that this is going to be a product of a new boss coming in, right? Whether it's an NHL coach or if you are a frontline employee at a grocery store or working in a casino, whenever there is a high level of leadership change, the new sheriff is in town, everything is a little bit cleaner, people are a little more on point, people make sure they don't forget to wear their tie on a random Wednesday when they walk into the office and things like that. And that's really where you hope Cassidy is going to come in and tidy things up. You obviously need everything to gel at the same time, though. We have a new coaching staff. He has an assistant who is not his direct assistant, from what I remember. So that's going to take time as well. DeBoer bought his assistant when he came in, obviously. Gallant came in with his right-hand man when he was the coach of VGK. So now we have a new system. We have a new coach. We have a new assistant coach. We're without Pacioretty and Dadonov, who at any point could account for 50 goals in the regular season. So there's a lot of things that Bruce Cassidy is going to have to figure out. And this is where things are in his favor. I mean, folks, if we have the 15th ranked power play for the 22-23 campaign, it's improvement, right? That should be some more. That should be some more wins. So he's got the bar nice and low. But I'm sure you can probably find a correlation to Stanley Cup winners and their regular season power play ranking. I think you really need to be top 10 on both sides, PP and PK, to really, start to put things in the right perspective. And Vegas Golden Knights penalty kill, at least I don't have a stat to support this right now, but I feel like we are one of the higher ranked PK teams, and also in the shorthanded goal department too. So hopefully getting to that top 10 on the PK side, not that much of a struggle by any means. And if we can get to top 10, top 12 on the power play, now we got some, right?
Yeah. And part of that 0 for 40-ish drought, I want to say, I hope it stopped at 40, I think was because Pasternak was out of the lineup. And so VGK's Pasternak will be Jack Eichel, you'd have to assume, this season, right? And he's going to be the person, the player that everyone's going to point to on the power play. He's exceptional, I think, with the man advantage, obviously. And they're going to have to get a lot of shots in the slot. They have to have better shot selection, I think, too, on the power play unit. We go back, to that. I think they ended the Montreal series 0 for 17, the VGK, on the power play. So it has come back to burn this franchise. It's a very crucial area. And yes, Kelly McCrimmon stressing the importance of special teams. No doubt that's going to be very important for this franchise moving forward. And then saw a statistic somewhere. I think that the VGK was led by Alex Pietrangelo on the shots on the power play unit at like 75 shots on goal, which is pretty interesting when you have a defenseman leading the charge. A lot of that's going to change, you believe, this upcoming season?
I mean, I don't mind the defenseman leading the charge, right? That's a little more of an old school type thing. You're going to try and get it through, try to get a bounce, try and get a rebound. And that was the first thing I noticed when we did sign Pietrangelo, was all he does is shoot on the power play. He gets the puck, he shoots. And, when you have a power play that's struggled, right? the whole crowd at T-Mobile is always yelling, shoot, when they see 4 or 5 passes around the perimeter and they start pushing. And then now someone like Pietrangelo comes in, all he does is shoots, and we're talking about shot selection. So this is no one's right or wrong in this argument, besides the fact that we need to get more goals. That's the only thing that matters. And yes, shot selection does play a key. Should Pietrangelo shoot every time he has the puck on his stick and feels he has a lane? Maybe. But should there be an extra level of creativity where the entire defense is expecting that shot, and you make 2 passes, one of which goes across the slot, and hopefully you get either a tip play or a backdoor or something like that? Sure, you need all of those things to gel. And that's the thing, like when your power play struggles, this is when you talk about it, right? And you're not just doing. Here we are, a couple amateurs trying to give advice about how we feel VGK is going to score more power play goals, but I'm sure the same discussions do happen, whether it's, what does Cassidy feel like when you're in an 0 for 40 or an 0 for 40 plus drought? Like, what does that pressure feel like? What does it feel like to be Pete DeBoer, who struggled mightily? The regular season, fine, whatever. But when you struggle in the playoffs, if you're fortunate enough to make the playoffs with a struggling power play, what does that feel like when you're in practice? What does that feel like when you're in the office? What does that feel like when you are talking with the assistants? Like, how do you fix something like that? And this is why they get paid 7 figures to figure these sorts of things out. But pressure is pressure, whether you're a couple of regulars like us, or whether you are a 7-figure paid athlete, paid coach. And I'm just kind of curious to be a fly in the wall of those types of discussions. And if I can, get inside their head for 30 seconds just to see what they're thinking, that'd be interesting.
And it's all going to start, I have to believe, with putting more men in front of the net on the power play. And I think we'll see a lot better execution in that manner, and better shot selection too. Again, it's got to come from inside the slot, and VGK has to attack on the power play. Coming up next, we'll have a look at VGK and Silver Knight signings this past week et al. More after this, right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights, and thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. Our podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcast. And now Chris has done a tremendous job in getting the show up on YouTube. And I know those numbers are just flying there. And you might want to take some of your Twitter approach in trying to get clout. Just a little advice here. Get some clout for the YouTube channel for us. Hey, we've got some signings this past week as we wrap up this week. VGK this past week signing defenseman Braden Pahal. I've got to get that right.
You got it. You're good.
Okay. Am I good on that
Yep.
pronunciation? Because it doesn't spell that way. A 1-year contract of $750,000. The captain of your Henderson Silver Knights. I know you are our season ticket holder.
Oh, yeah.
With that team too. 2 games up with the VGK last season. And then a couple of other signings. The Henderson Silver Knights signing Jermaine Lowen, 97 AHL games played with Chicago and Las Vegas, 17 total points, 201 penalty minutes. They're going to groom him for the goon role on the next level, perhaps. And another defenseman they signed this past week, Darian Skiach, from the ECHL franchises of the Allen Americans and the Indy Fuel, 6'5", 225, and he had 177 penalty minutes in his 3 years in the ECHL. Are they going to dirty things up there with the Silver Knights this upcoming season?
I think right about now they're probably what they do. They took a knife to the Charlestown Chiefs bus, and carved in a bunch of things to make them look meaner. Maybe that's what we're going to have. Maybe $1 Lone Star is going to look a little bit different next year. But the one I'm going to focus on is Jermaine Lowen. I've enjoyed watching Jermaine Lowen's game improve over the last 2 seasons. I felt HSK season 1, he was slow, a very big body, a very tough person. You don't want to you don't want to be on the receiving end of one of his hits, because once he starts and gets into you, he's going to put you into the first row with Alec Martinez, who's going to be eating nachos. But I really felt his game increased a lot from season 1 to season 2. I felt his hands got a lot better. I felt his speed improved, and his overall game just got better. Still on a back-to-back AHL contract, so he's probably got a ways to go if he has NHL aspirations, especially to get into a role that is not as predominant as it certainly was in the 80s and 90s, even into the early 2000s. So he's got some work to do. I would certainly love to see him maybe get that opportunity one day, but he's definitely a fan favorite down there. Obviously, everyone loves watching the big hits in the corners and all the activity, and he'll be one of the first people to drop the gloves in defense of his teammates. But again, he does have good hands around the net. He gets himself in plus situations. You mentioned we need more traffic in front of the net for the power play. I mean, if we're going to Jermaine Loewen for power play help for VGK, I don't think things are necessarily going as planned. Although the Blackhawks tried that with Dustin Byfuglien for a while, that was a real weird situation. But yeah, another story for another time. But yeah, AHL Henderson Silver Knights, we're going to have some fun. It seems like with a couple of big boys down there who are going to definitely defend their teammates and get the crowd on their feet and get the kids going nuts. They can fight once the Pee Wee games start.
So could this be an omen, a sign of things to come, though, if they're starting to get beefier with HSK, and then
Why not?
hopefully for VGK, they could groom these players to come up even at a moment's notice, right? To just cross
Why
town.
not? Yeah, 100%. 100%.
To play more physical. They need more. The identity of this team is going to be a big question coming into this season. And what
we have
will
to have an
that
identity.
identity be?
Exactly. I don't care what the identity is, whether it's a skill, fast game, or if we're hitting everything that moves. It doesn't matter, but there needs to be a defined identity within the first 7, 8, 9 games, like something we can point to and say, this is what you can expect. We didn't have that last year. Define last year's identity. Identity less is the answer. That's last year's identity.
Okay, right there.
Oh, yes, our new mascot for the Ghost Pirates.
So the Ghost Pirates unveiling a new mascot, Savannah Ghost Pirates of the ECHL. Again, they are part of the fam. I hate that word fam. They're part of the family for VGK.
Part of the family tree.
Okay, yay or nay on the new mascot for the Ghost Pirates?
Oh, yay, let's go. I mean, it's a mascot. Let's not overthink this. It's a mascot. It's going to be great.
Have you bought any merchandise yet?
I'll buy something. I will buy something. I have to search to find it, but gotta show some love, right? I'll rock that at some AHL games and maybe an NHL game. Confuse people. Although I did in season 1, my wife got me a Chicago Wolves jersey with my name on it. Obviously from the area, was a huge Wolves fan growing up, and I wore the Wolves jersey a couple times to the NHL games, and like no one could connect the dots. But I think that was just because we were a new hockey city at the time. Chris, although Manny Lagasse, though, when he was going on back with the Wolves, he saw me in the front row during warmups actually, and he gave me a thumbs up for it. So there we go.
Okay, did you ever get any pucks or sticks in any of these games?
Always. My kids have done very well. My kids have done very well with pucks. Very well with pucks. Sticks. My kids, I think we're up to 3 sticks now as well. All AHL sticks.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, we have the unofficial last puck from season number 1 when they finished at T-Mobile, the playoff game when they lost the fake playoff game. We were sitting right where the referees come in and out, and my kids went over to the side. They picked up the puck off the ice, gave it to my kids. So we have the unofficial last puck of season 1 HSK.
Great work today. And as always, Chris Gawlik, I'm Tony Cordasco. So long for now. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday right here on Locked On Golden Knights. Take care.